Okay, so I didn't realize that the lecture video cut off before I actually finished this problem. I did the one with pivoting, but I forgot to finish these last two problems. So this is the one where it says, so this is the last, these are the last two problems from the 2.1, 2.2 handout. And it says, if there are infinitely many solutions, get everything in terms of the last variable. And so here I'll start with number 10, and I don't have access to a classroom, so that's why I'm doing this on my computer. So the first thing I would do is think of the augmented matrix associated with this system and put that into my calculator. And that's been shown in several videos. So I'm going to go to edit the matrix 2 by 3 and then put the coefficients in. So negative 1/2, 1, 3/2, negative 3, 6, 10. And then second quit, and then I want to find the reduced row echelon form, the RREF of that matrix. And then here's what I get for this one. Ooh. I get 1, negative 2, 0 for the top row, and then 0, 0, oops, 1 for the second row. And then if I write down the equations that go with that reduced row echelon form, then the top row would tell me, well, 1x minus 2y equals 0, and the second equation would tell me 0x plus 0y, which is just 0 equals 1. And since that doesn't work, then that means the system has no solution. So there are not infinitely many solutions. For that number 10, there's no solution. So now I want to do the same sort of thing for number 14. So the first thing I want to do is put the corresponding augmented matrix into my calculator and get the RREF. So I'm going to do that and then come back. Okay, so when I entered the augmented matrix for this system, put it in my calculator and got the RREF, for the reduced row echelon form, this is the matrix that I got back from my calculator. So what I want to do is write down what equations I get from doing that. Okay, so the top row then would tell me okay, so I'd have x plus 0y minus 11z equals 8. And the second row would tell me y minus 4z equals 1. And then the bottom row just tells me 0 equals 0. Well, that's true. 0 does equal to 0. 0 is equal to 0. So that doesn't cause problems like when we got 0 equals 1. Oops, that is obviously not a true statement. So that's why we said no solution. But 0 equals 0, that's true. So that doesn't cause us to say no solution. So, and we, how I worded it on the handout was solve for everything in terms of the last variable. How I said it on the group work, I think, was, or the chapter worksheet, was solve for everything in terms of z. So you always want to solve for the variable that comes first in the equations that you get from the RREF. So here it's just when I write down the equation that goes with the top row, the first letter is x. So I'm going to solve for x. So that top equation, solving for x, I would just add 11z to both sides. So this tells me x equals 8 plus 11z. And then I want to do the same thing. The second equation, the first variable was y, so I'm just going to solve for y. So I would add 4z to both sides. So I'd get y equals 1 plus 4z. And then here, we don't have anything restricting what z can be. So here, z can be any real number. Okay, and so if you write the solution in terms of a point, which sometimes my math lab asks you to do, then in place of the first, remember we normally put them in alphabetical order, so x, y, z. So the first one would be 8 plus 11z, the first thing in parentheses. So 8 plus 11z, and then if you look back, it said the y is, 1 plus 4z, and then z is just equal to z. And then you might say at the end of that where z is any real number. So I've written the, I'm going to change the zoom on this. So here, when I have the solution, everything is in terms of z, or the last variable.